I drew some beautiful, beautiful power lines here. And I'm going to draw a red one. That's not red, holy moly. And then we're gonna draw a blue one. Beautiful artwork. I definitely went to art for school. I definitely went to school for art. I did not go to art for school. Okay, on this side, we're gonna say this is where our power generation comes from. We'll have, this will be our lightning bolt, not the flash symbol. I know I'm such a great artist and it looks like the flash symbol. This is where the power comes from, and then this side is where your house is. So these power lines are going like straight into your house. And so when the electric company, when they generate power, it sends electricity on this red line, we'll call it the hot line, over to your house. And when it gets into your house, it goes all the way through your house, and then it'll go back this way. I think this is called, I don't remember if it operates off DC power, if it operates off AC power. Most transmission lines are high voltage 3-phase AC currents. Okay. So that means on your power lines here, you have alternating currents. So basically this power, the power supply here, your power company is sending currents like little intervals over and over and over. And that's why when you have like a laptop or something and it goes into your house, you have a little box before it. And it transforms this alternating current into direct current. And so your computer runs off a direct current. And so all these electrons that this power company is generating is just shooting off to your house, and then it's shooting back. And when we talk about how batteries work, we know they're based off a huge amount of electrons on one side, and then it causes a gradient, and then it'll go all the way to the other side, which is your positive and your negative charges. These hot lines right here, the red ones, are your highly electrized, is that the right word? I'm not sure. You got a lot of power going through this side, and then it goes through your house and it gets all used up, and then you have not as much power going back. And that's how electricity gets fed to your house. So when you get a bird on here and it just sits on this one side, ooh, this is gonna be a difficult bird to draw. Woo! Oh, this is beautiful. This is a beautiful bird, guys. Oh, jeez. Look at that bird. Ain't she pretty? It sits on this power line and nothing happens to it. It's because there's no change in electrical potential from one side or the other. So you have this delta, or we'll call it a change, and on this side you have a lot of electrons, and on the other side you have the same amount of electrons. So when you connect one side to the other, there's no change. So that means there's no reason for electrons to pass through the bird to go to the other side, because they're both high. And so like I said, when batteries work, they want to go from high to low. In order for any electrons to want to take a different path, it needs to go from a high point to a low point. And I'll draw that in blue, high and low. If electricity wants to travel through an object, it needs to go from a high to a low. In order for the bird to die, or to have anything bad happen to it, it needs to go from a high point to a low point. So say the bird was sitting up here closer to the wood, so the wood's not as good of a conductor and it's not pushing electricity through it. And so you have a bird that stands on the wood part and the power line part. This bird is going to die. There will be no more bird. And so this is what makes it dangerous for us, because we have the ground that we always stand on. So say somebody's here, they're on the ground, they're just standing there. This will be me, and I decide to fly a kite. Woo! And I'm really dumb, and I fly it right next to the power lines, and it touches the power lines. And so what happens is, your delta then turns into this high energy up here. It travels down through the kites, through me, and so I'll draw the arrows here, through me, and then into the ground, which has our low potential. And so the electrons are like, wow, this is super low electric potential, this is super high electric potential. So all that electricity is going straight down through you, and it's going straight into the ground. And what happens is, you die, just like this bird. In a sense, that's how it works. So the question is, why do birds sit on power lines and not die? It's because they go from a high to a high. So the question is, can humans sit on power lines? Well, if they sit just like this bird, so say I decide to go even more crazy. Say I decide to sit just like this bird on the power line, it's still going to go from a high to high. So when I sit on this power line, nothing's going to happen. The issue is when you connect this high to this low, or even from one of these lines to the other, say I go from this line to this line, same thing's going to happen. You have your high electric potential going from this line all the way over to this line, and it's going to cause a spark, and it's going to basically short this whole circuit. So that means electricity is now going to go this way, and none of this here is going to get power, which is why when you see some crazy videos of people like flying balloons into these power lines and like it explodes in a fiery explosion and all the lights go out, it's because power is no longer traveling along this line. It shoots across like this and goes back this way instead of going the normal way it should. So if you wanted to sit on a power line, or if you're forced somehow to grab onto power lines, you have to make sure you're not touching anything else. And definitely don't just go do this for fun. But you will survive, as long as you don't touch anything else, because you're going from a high to a high, or if you're on the other side, you're going to be going from a low to a low. But the basic thing is connecting highs to, this is the main thing I wanted you guys to get right here. The main source of what I wanted you guys to understand. The main thing is that if you connect a high to a high, electrons don't want to flow across that path. But if you connect a high to a low, you'll want electrons to flow that way. And it's the same thing like when you see waterfalls. You start up high, water wants to go down because of gravity. It just wants to. And so it's the same thing with electrons. You have this flowing stream, it wants to go down because gravity is pulling it down. And essentially, it's the same thing with electrons. You have a bunch of electrons over here, and then all of these electrons, they want to flow somewhere. Just like this water wants to flow down, there's a different force that wants these electrons to flow this way. So say they're in some sort of box, and it's just like a flow. So instead of gravity, electrons are getting pulled by a force that wants it to go this way. And so these electrons shoot off in that direction. And you can apply this to so many different other terms and so many different other topics. As long as you know that high goes to low, you'll be set. Even like one thing that I thought was crazy, so it's the same thing with hot air. Hot air wants to flow into cold air. So when you have your refrigerator, when you open your refrigerator door, it's not necessarily that cold air is coming out of your refrigerator. It's more that the hot air outside of your refrigerator is going into the cold air. And I thought, when I kind of thought that way, I was like, wow, this is crazy. I was like, this is insane. Sorry, I'm hiding my picture that I was drawing. This was my waterfall. And then this was my electrons. I hope you guys feel a lot more educated. But if there's no questions, I think we'll get into Rocket League.